This week on Dance of Joy.
What are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about mint green fashion trends, dating advice, and the introduction to this show's namesake, The Dance of Joy, as we rewatch Season 1, Episode 3 of the 80s hit sitcom Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Imran, and joining me is my co-host. She's not my cousin, but she is my sister. It's Sophia. What's up, Sophia?
Hello, hello.
How you doing? Are you excited to go on a first date with Balky? This is going to be fun.
Of course I am. Don't be ridiculous.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
There you go. See how I set you up for that? That's called synergy right there. So, listener, we are up to Season 1, Episode 3 of Perfect Strangers, called First Date. Where's that TV guide? It's probably in the bathroom.
All right, let me grab it.
Can you go
here
grab it?
is.
Okay, will you read the description? What's coming up this week on The Perfect Strangers, Sophia?
According to the TV guide, Balky asks Larry to teach him how to approach American women.
Ooh.
But Balky's techniques prove to be more successful and frustrating to Larry.
That already sounds hilarious. Balky will prove to be more successful at a lot of things.
With his Meposian techniques.
Meposian techniques, yes.
Of course.
Yes, but we'll find out which techniques he uses. This episode, directed by Joel Wick, written by Marty Nadler, first aired April 8th, 1986. I am 3 days into being 10 years old. I'll stop with my age. It happened in April. I can't help it. It was around my birthday. This is a week after my birthday. And of course, Perfect Strangers, created by Dale McRaven. Where are we opening up again this episode, Sophia?
Back at the Ritz shop.
Back at the weird thrift store where Balky and Larry work.
Shop. We don't know what it is. Is it a pawn shop? Is it a thrift store? Who knows?
And if you watch like the items throughout as the shows go on, he sells all sorts of weird things. Like there's no rhyme or reason as to what Twinka said he carries at Ritz Discount.
Yeah, it's kind of like a thrift store or Goodwill. You know how Goodwill has like all sorts of like housewares and.
Well, I'll spoil it for next episode, but what thrift store has radio amplifiers and cases of motor oil? I don't understand what's happening. And then like visors and tourist t-shirts in the background. Anyways, we open at Ritz, and lovely redhead Susan is there, and enter Balky. And he didn't lose it last episode when he was next to Susan, but episode 3, he's back to just throwing himself at her feet.
Yes, drooling. And this one, he literally loses himself, and he says, "Let me shine shine your shoes with my heart." And he gets down on the floor at her feet and is trying to like shine her shoes with his chest.
He's rubbing his chest against her shoes, and Susan is just like, he's cute. Aw. And then exits Susan, and she walks out. Larry's trying to tell Balky, you can't do this, Balky, around women. And he's like, don't you know any other women? And Balky says, I don't know any other women, which is why he's acting like this around Susan.
Which, begs the question, did he ever talk to women on Meepos?
I mean, maybe just his cousins and his like second cousins and siblings. I don't know.
I mean, he is meant to be like, they are meant to be in their like early 20s at this point. So maybe. You
think his parents would have arranged him with like the butter churner in the village over? When they were little.
Maybe, but he was their hope to go to America and earn some money.
That's true. We got to keep him single so he can come back and marry one of the Meposian women and take her back. Yes. The immigrant dream. We know. We've been there. Dream. Our parents did it. So Larry is giving Balky advice on what to do when you see a woman. 1986 advice. I think does this hold up? What's the advice?
Well, the advice is you see a woman, you smile, pay her a compliment, ask her name. It's easy.
Okay. I mean, those are all that tracks, right?
And of course, Balky has no reason not to trust Larry. In Balky's eyes, Larry is the suave American cousin who knows everything and knows how to talk to women.
That's hilarious.
which we'll find out more about as this episode goes on.
Yes. So Balky sees a customer and he's going to, okay, Cousin Larry, let me try. And this poor lady, minding her own business, is shopping. At first he falls to his knees and Larry grabs him. He's like, up. And he waves him up. He's like, no, stay up. So she's asking about sweatshirts and Balky says, right over here. And she says, fantastic. And Balky's opening line is, yes, and speaking of fantastic, you have perfect bone structure for having babies. At which point, Larry drops his clipboard in the background and walks over.
Balky, of course, Larry having said, ask a woman her name, it's easy. Balky asks her his name. She ignores him and walks on and turns her back to him to look at another item. And Balky leans over and says, oh, I see it's written right here on the back of your jeans. Your name is Levi Strauss. Hello, Levi.
Okay, this is a little creepy. He's leaning over into her butt to find her name. And she goes, where do you get off anyway? To which Balky goes, well, I got off in New York, but then I took a bus to Chicago.
Very literal, all the time. So funny.
Great literal Balky humor.
So Larry apologizes, explains that Balky is an immigrant and perhaps has a head injury.
Before Balky does have that line, he goes, do you want to have a happy hour with me? And she's just like, she's done. And then here we go, a catchphrase first alert. Larry is staring Balky with googly eyes, and Balky's first time goes, don't you give me that face.
And then, of course, the cantankerous Twinkassetti chimes in with his dating advice.
Yeah, which is great and sleazy, which is what you would expect. Twinkassetti's advice is, you see a woman, you offer her $50 and not 1 penny more. Wow. Wow. But then Larry goes, look, he's not looking for that type of date. I think he thinks he has a line.
File that under lines in 80s sitcoms that would not go well today.
Plus $50 is really cheap, Twinkassetti. What are you getting for $50? God, get yourself checked.
Gross.
Larry says, Balky, you've got to go to a place where single women hang out and suggest a singles bar.
And Balky says, great, you'll come with me, right?
Larry does not like singles bars. I mean, it's obvious. Larry, he has a great line. He goes, I prefer more formal situations, like weddings, tax audit, Heimlich maneuver.
And then, as Larry is trying to weasel his way out of going to the singles bar with Balky, we have a Balkyism first time alert, Balkyism alert, where Balky goes, oh, which is this very sort of like foreignism, some kind of Meposianism that comes out of his mouth. But in this instance, it's like a light bulb goes off and he goes, oh, Papa, you just don't want me to know all your tricks. All your smooth moves is what he's implying.
Because he thinks he is the love expert. But I love that oh, Papa, because like every ethnicity, Eastern European, Asian, everybody culture has an oh, Papa. Like you've heard that. And it means different things in context of when you use it. Same thing here. It means different things in different episodes. So the next scene, cut to a 1986 bar.
Singles bar.
Singles bar. This is amazing. Yes, describe this bar. First of all, describe Larry's outfits throughout this.
We get to the singles bar. Which doesn't look like a bar. It looks more like I don't know. It looks like an airport lounge or something.
Yes, it does.
And Larry is in an all mint ensemble, like a mint collared long sleeve shirt with a mint sweater vest, a matching mint sweater vest.
Same mint color. He looks like ice cream. And meanwhile, Balky has your typical 80s blazer. That's gray with like little triangles on it.
You know what that blazer reminded me of? The pattern? I swear it was like the
Trapper
background
Keeper?
Pattern of Saved by the Bell openings credits.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the 80s. Everything was neon colors, geometric shapes.
Yeah. And Larry goes, be cool. And Balky's like, I can be cool. And he like does this little like cool head shake. He gets very loose and walks into the bar with
No,
With
before that, they're
right.
standing there, and Balky's just kind of grooving to the music, and another great Balky misinterpretation. He goes, "So this is one of your American mating places." To which,
Meeting.
yeah, Larry instantly goes, "Meeting place. People meet here, they mate somewhere else."
Great.
It's just so good. Yeah, so he attempts to be cool and talks to women, and Larry quickly snatches him, brings him back to the bar. He goes, "This is not the cafeteria. You got to go slow." He's super embarrassed. He goes, "Everyone is looking at us." And Mark Lynn-Baker, throughout this whole scene, is just amazing, nervous, neurotic energy that you can connect to.
We really get this insight into Larry's character because he's so nervous, and you can just tell by Mark Lynn-Baker's physicality how uncomfortable Larry is.
Does not want to be there. Yeah. So Larry, again, back to giving love tips. He's telling Balky, you got to make eye contact. Then you go over there and you talk to the woman. And Balky notices this girl across the bar looking at Larry and begins to point with a hand, to which is quickly snatched down. And then the other hand. And then Balky points with his nose, which I thought was really funny.
Right, because he was trying to point out a woman who was making eye contact with Larry. He was like, "You mean like that woman who's making eye contact with you?" And then Larry's like, "Don't point."
Balky's like, "Okay, let me try this." He scans the bar like he's Terminator. He's got a very, very determined look. He's just looking. And then he catches eyes with a young blonde lady, and she smiles all flirty, and he smiles back. And he's like, "Cousin, I made eye contact." At which point, he's like, "I'm going to go over there."
He goes over there, and he starts off real smooth, real nice, innocent. He says, "Hello, do you come here often?" And the woman goes, "No." And Balky immediately goes, "Would you smother me with your beautiful American body?"
Too much. Balky.
At which point, Larry grabs him and whisks him back to their corner of the bar.
And the girl that was staring at Larry, still staring at Larry. So Larry's like, "All right, watch a master at work. Let's do this. I don't usually do this. I don't usually move this fast," I think is what he says.
And he goes over and approaches the woman, and he opens his mouth to speak. But before he can say anything, the woman's big beefy boyfriend shows up in like a Chicago Bears football jersey.
Of course.
And he goes, "Hey, that's my girlfriend." And he grabs him by the neck and drags Larry out of the bar.
Of course.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
Of course. The timing is fantastic. He doesn't even get a word out, and he gets caught. Cut to later that night. Larry is sitting at home in a robe and with a cartoony ice pack on his head.
It's always a cartoony ice pack.
It's always, you notice the cartoony ice packs. Ice packs, do they look like that with the little round thing on top?
I have never seen one of those in real life.
Me neither.
But I feel like they were used as props in shows just to emphasize that it was an ice pack.
This is an ice pack. Someone got hurt. Yeah. So another song alert as Balky comes in with a rose singing "Young Girl" by, is that Neil Simon? Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond. Who sang Young Girl?
Neil Diamond.
Neil Simon.
So he comes in singing "Young Girl," and he's just enamored and in love because he's met his first American woman.
Okay, I have to correct myself. "Young Girl," sung by Gary Puckett and the Union Gap. Neil Diamond was completely wrong.
So even we get our 80s references wrong.
That's why we have the internet.
While Larry got beat up outside the bar, that's what they're hinting at here. Balky had a lovely evening with this blonde woman he met at the bar.
And got another date the following night and wants Cousin Larry to go on a double date.
Yes, and here he quotes a very classic 80s gum commercial.
Yes, he does.
He says, Cousin Larry, you come with me. We'll double the pleasure, double the fun, which, of course, was Wrigley's Double Mint Gum slogan.
Everybody
and that was
that.
A very iconic 80s gum commercial that featured a lot of twins.
Yep. Oh,
doing
man,
twin things.
Those were great, and it was catchy, and it kind of made you want to chew gum. I was like, I need to get me some of this Double Mint. These people are having fun. Why can't I have this much fun? And then it cuts to, I guess, the following evening. Balky is getting ready for his first date, and Larry is helping him with his tie. Balky's very nervous, and it's so short, but a brilliant comedic bit where Larry is tying the tie on Balky, and Balky flicks Larry's hands away. Larry returns, flicks Balky's hands away, and it escalates to them pushing their heads, flopping back and forth, and until Larry goes, just stop it. And they stand straight, and he finishes the tie. I love that.
So much comedy with no dialogue, no words at all.
It's so good. And Susan shows up for the big date, and she asks him, is he ready? Are you nervous, Balky? And Larry has prepped Balky a little bit.
Balky says, yeah, cousin Larry told me everything. I open the door for her. I pull out the chair. I don't speak with my mouth full, and I don't touch her body unless I'm asked. Which sounds pretty good, actually.
I know. I mean,
good advice.
Solid advice by Larry Appleton. And Susan's like, Larry, and he's like, what? These questions came up. Look, he's sending him out to be a gentleman.
Yes.
I appreciated that. So while Balky's getting ready, he goes off to the bathroom. Larry still isn't sure he's going to go with him, but there's another great timing bit by Markle and Baker where Balky is walking to the bathroom and Larry's just like, she's going to love you. You have got the right stuff. And as soon as the door shuts, he just switches on a time. He goes, he is duped. Looking back at Susan. And he does that throughout the series. Like his timing where he's doing those switches with the words and the emotions is so good.
And Susan tries to convince him to go. And Larry's like, no, absolutely, I'm not going. She's like, how can you cast him aside? And he goes, how can I cast him aside like this? And he does this like tossing to the side.
Like he's like keeping Balky.
And just one note here, we're in a different scene on a different day, but Larry is wearing another mint-colored top.
But this is more like a light blue.
It's mint.
But it's a collarless sweatshirt. This was the style at the time.
It's a collarless mint sweatshirt, but it's the same color. It must have been 1986. Must have been like all the bachelor dudes were wearing mint.
If you went into the Gap, this is all you could buy back then. They weren't sending anything else. So Larry does reveal some stuff about himself in this while he's trying to explain to Susan why he doesn't want to go. He said it's going to be a disaster, and Larry admits he does not like being embarrassed in public. And there's a great line where he goes, I don't know, it started maybe when I was born nude in front of all these strangers. So his neurosis is turned up. He does not want to go, but he guilts himself into going on the date, and Susan goes with him.
Susan offers to go along. Yeah. So it's a nice double date.
I mean, I would thought Larry had been more excited Susan was going to go. I thought, did he not want to get together with her?
No, I think Susan was just like, they tried to introduce her in the beginning as just like a friend. But again, don't get too attached
to Susan.
Don't get too attached to
Susan.
Susan.
So finally, Sophia, it's date time. At the same place they were, I believe. It's the same set.
Is it? Yeah.
It's the same bar where they met.
Well, I think it's like a different restaurant, but it looks very much like the same set as the singles bar from the day before. And guess what? Larry is wearing mint again.
One more time. At least he's wearing a darker colored sweater vest on top of
that is 3 mint ensembles on Larry in one episode.
There's a lot of bright colors coming up. I noticed he's wearing red, and then he wears red in a later episode, like real bright, solid. Yeah. There's like tons of bright colors. But a great bit in the beginning where they all show up to the restaurant, and Larry told Balky to pull out the chair for his date. So Balky pulls out her chair and leaves it like 3 feet over from the table, and everyone sits down, and Balky looks at her and goes, oh, don't be shy. Come. And she scooches in. I love that so much. It's so funny.
Right. And then so they start making small talk, and Larry says to Susan off to the side, like, mentions something about Balky just has a lot of jokes about sheep herders. And soon enough, we get to hear one. And it has no punchline at all. It's just Balky cracking up about sheep herding. And a joke that doesn't make it's this long drawn out situational setup and then no punchline.
It's about an ugly sheep who the punchline is, you think I'm ugly? Well, I'm not.
And then Balky's like head on the table, slapping his knee.
Can't breathe. Yeah.
Cracking up.
And then the whole time Larry's trying to distract, call the waiter, get the check, just like, you don't have to do this. That's okay. When suddenly Balky recognizes the song that the band is playing. What? What does it sound like, Sophia?
He says, this sounds like a song we have on Mypos. It's called The Dance of Joy.
Oh, we got to mention the Dance of Joy.
The introduction. Now, it's not exactly the Dance of Joy that we will come to know in the rest of the series, but it's just a band that's playing a song, and he says, this sounds familiar. And then his date gets really excited, and Susan gets really excited.
And they want to dance.
Can you teach us the Dance of Joy? And can you show us? And he gets up. He's like, yes, but I need a group of people. So they all get up. And, of course, Larry is like, absolutely not. He's mortified.
He's so embarrassed.
He's mortified.
Come on, Larry, dance with us. So much like you said, this isn't the official Dance of Joy yet, but he starts out doing the kick to the side moves.
Right.
Yes.
It has elements of the dance. The song is a little bit different. But
They throw their hands up. They say, hey. They're doing the kick to the side, back and forth, and like a conga line, he gets the whole bar to join him and dance around.
And Larry is mortified. Larry's just trying to get this whole thing to stop. He wants Balky to stop. He wants all the attention to be off them, and he's trying to get them to stop. And this big brutish guy, who I think is the same guy,
he's the guy who pulled him
beat
off.
up Larry in the singles bar, the same actor at least.
Well, but first, Larry goes to the band and he puts his hand on the guitar player, stops the music. You do not do that. There is no social situation where you walk up to the band and touch the dude playing guitar.
Yeah, for someone
I'm
who does not like to be embarrassed, he's doing a lot of things to embarrass himself.
If I was that guitar player, I would have just kicked him right there. I would have punched him. And so he stops the band, and then what happens?
And then that same man who beat him up in the singles bar says, hey, we're having a good time. Dance. And he goes 5. And then Larry gets scared. And so Larry goes 5, 6, 7, 8. And then they all dance.
Without missing a beat, Larry just goes back into the dance. It was great.
And they dance. And the scene closes with everyone dancing, including Larry in this restaurant bar scene.
Cut to their apartment. Everyone seemingly had a great time. Susan is laughing. She says, I had a great time. They're laughing. And as soon as the door closes, Larry's pouty. Why is he pouty? Because he was embarrassed and didn't like it.
He just had a terrible time.
But
even though he laughed
fun.
and he put on a good face as long as Susan was around, as soon as she left, he was like, that was horrible.
He's so uptight that he can't even admit
he's so sad
that he had some fun. But we got 2 more great physical comedic firsts here. This is the first time Larry makes an attempt when he comes into his apartment to throw his jacket onto the rack, which misses, hits the ground. And then he throws his keys, and then the keys fall off. Yes. So, nothing goes right for Larry. It's so great.
He's so stressed. So we're starting to see in this episode, we're in episode 3 now, we're starting to see a little bit, learn what Larry's all about, right? So he's so stressed.
He's
a
neurotic.
young man in his early 20s. He's a bachelor. He's living on his own. He's so stressed about this perceived embarrassment that he felt that he goes to the refrigerator and gets a bottle of antacid, like Maalox or something, and opens it up and drinks it straight out of the bottle. And this is the first time we see this. This becomes a Larry trope throughout the series. And I just think it's so funny. This young 20-something getting so stressed that he's drinking antacid from what 20-something do you know who does that?
From public embarrassment of just dancing at a bar at a restaurant. But the trope of drinking antacid I always thought was interesting because you saw this in a lot of things. This was the thing that showed you you were
antacid
stressed.
Was a big deal in the 80s.
So that prevents heartburn? It coats your stomach? Why are you drinking it?
I don't know.
How is this helping him?
I mean, the modern version of that would be like Xanax or something, right?
Yeah, it'd be like a Valium or
just like popping a Xanax.
So he's so stressed he has a heartburn and acid reflux. That's for acid reflux,
right? Okay,
that's for acid reflux. So Larry explains why he is so stressed because he goes, Balky, you and me are different. And Balky goes, we are? He goes, yes. You like to jump into the water without even checking if there is water. And I like to make sure there's a lifeguard there. The temperature's fine. Maybe I dip my toe and I call it a day.
Yeah. And then there's this great explanation that Balky gives because Larry's like, Balky was like, but you were having fun. We were all dancing. And Larry's like, no, everybody was looking at me.
Yeah.
And Balky explains to him how ridiculous that sounds to Balky. He says, cousin, if everybody is singing and dancing, nobody looks at the fellow who is also singing and dancing. They look at the fellow who is not singing and dancing, which is just like so simple and such good logic about feeling embarrassed. Because we all feel those moments, right? But you're like, look, if everyone's singing and dancing, they're not going to be looking at you. If you don't sing and dance, that's when they'll look at you. Makes a lot of sense. Balky is just smart.
He's trying to help. He's trying to help his cousin Larry have fun. And he goes on. He says, like, nobody asked you to do your Cagney impression. So now starts this thing about the Cagney impression in our wrap up, our lesson of the episode. Larry has a very poor impersonation of James Cagney. Balky coaxes it out of him. Wait, is this before or after the lesson? I think I jumped ahead.
This is before the lesson. So, okay. So they're talking about the night and Balky's like, but you were having fun. You were dancing. And he's like, yeah, but that's because you made me and everyone's looking at me. And he goes through the whole, like, no one was looking at you. And then he's trying to get Larry to understand, to admit that he had fun. He's like, okay, I asked you to dance, but no one asked you to do that Cagney impression, implying that eventually Larry loosened up and was having a good time and started doing this Cagney impression that he believes everyone loves.
And Balky goes, you are a fun person. And Larry's like, really? Yeah. No, I'm not. He goes, yes,
do it. Do the Cagney impersonation.
He goes, no, I can't. And Balky eggs him on. And Larry finally stands up and does the worst James Cagney impersonation of "you dirty rats." Even that I just did was better than what he does.
Yeah,
obviously,
it's terrible.
It's meant to be stiff. But do you know the "you dirty rat" line? This is a famous quote from a famous gangster movie.
I mean, I don't know it from the original, just from sort of subsequent cultural references to it. But it's from the 1931 film Taxi, of course.
James Cagney goes, "You dirty rat, you killed my brother." But that line that's famous, and this happens with a bunch of other famous movie lines, was never actually spoken by the actor. The line from the film is actually, "You dirty rat, I'm going to get rid of you just like you gave it to my brother." Similar to Luke, "I am your father" in Star Wars, Darth Vader never actually says that. He doesn't say Luke beforehand.
Oh.
Yeah. So after Balky loves this Cagney impersonation, he goes over the lesson. As a recap for the audience and the viewer, he goes over the lesson for the episode.
And of course, the lesson in Balky's words are, you taught me if I just relax and be myself, people will like me. And he says, and cousin, you learned something. Actually, we learned the same thing. They actually learned the same lesson this time.
This time, it was the same lesson for both of them. And as the episode winds down, Larry's like, you think I sound like Cagney? And Bucky's like, perfect. He's like, really? He's like, yes. And then hits a beat. And then he goes, can you do Lacey?
There's the punchline. This, of course, is Balky mixing up his Cagney references. Balky is thinking not James Cagney, but Cagney and Lacey, which is funny because Cagney and Lacey was a female buddy cop show.
Yes, I used to watch that. Balky watches a lot of TV. And roll credits. It's a satisfying first date episode with Balky. Everyone learned. And Larry does need to learn to just relax.
And of course, after this episode, we never find out what happened with Balky and that woman that he went on.
What was her name? I don't even know what her name was.
I don't remember her name. It wasn't important.
It wasn't important. You never see her again. Yeah. You'll see Susan a couple more times this season, this short season, and then she out. Don't be ridiculous. Believe it or not, never uttered this episode. Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
Wow, they actually let
Maybe it didn't become a thing yet.
Probably not, even though he said it 5 times the first episode. You missed that?
Maybe it was too much. Maybe they needed a break.
Okay, perfect strangers today, sister. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you sister. Sis.
I'm not a nun.
Sophia, what will be different if the show happened in the contemporary perspective?
Okay, if these were two 20-somethings, millennials, post-millennials, of course, Larry would introduce Balky to Tinder.
Yes.
Balky would have some Meposian version of Tinder. That would be hilarious.
Oh, we have that on our island. It's called Bumber or something. It would just be some silly name.
And then Larry would coach him on how to write his bio. Balky would want to write something very Meposian, like I'm a professional sheep herder. I'm the best snout cook in town or something like that. Balky might also have funny misunderstandings of online dating culture in America, like maybe he would get ghosted and Larry would explain to him what ghosting is. And
is he
Balky
dead,
would
cousin
say,
Larry?
yeah, or like, that's not ghosts come back to haunt you and they stay with you forever. That's the opposite of ghosting.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I thought maybe Balky would start, chatting back and forth and he would come up with his own texting acronyms like DBR for don't be ridiculous or OPP for oh.
But see, that would lead to a great confusion as to what OPP, if you talk about the Naughty by Nature song,
what
that
was
stands for.
That song, isn't it? But
yes,
anyway.
it was. Oh, I love those. I would think Larry would have like the dorkiest, douchiest Tinder profile, and Balky would probably be very popular with the ladies. He's swarthy.
Larry would lie about his height for sure.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. You have to. Either that or wear lifts, Larry.
Yeah.
He would probably use the filter that adds lips to his face. Yes. Because he has no lips. And people would show up and be like, that's not the picture you have, Larry. But Balky, I think, swarthy, Mediterranean fella, some sexy shots. Oh, he'd be killer on Tinder right now. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just think of all the things he would misunderstand on Tinder, or how funny a Meposian Tinder site would be.
All right, let's finish up. I got some pop cultural fun fact trivia things. Well, we shared some fun audio last episode. I have some more fun audio to share. This is from 1986, the year we're talking about, a Perfect Strangers Moonlighting Who's the Boss crossover promo.
Whoa.
This audio, and I'll put links to this in our show description so you can watch along, but you can hear the audio. This features the cast of all of the shows sitting, dressing the camera.
There are two new faces coming to Tuesday night.
So you two are going to be on Tuesday night,
Sybil Shepherd.
Yeah, hope you guys can cut it.
Remember, Tuesday nights are pretty hot around here.
Well, don't worry, we won't let you down.
Better not. Do you remember everything we taught him?
Well, sure he does. Of course he does, Balky.
Does an ant farm? Does a picket fence? Hey, oh, Angela, check me in. There she was, just walking down the street.
Perfect Strangers, the perfect comedy on the perfect night starting tomorrow.
That's going to be good.
Dude, it's amazing because you have sitting there Sybil Shepherd, Bruce Willis, Mark Lynn-Baker, Bronson Pinchot, Tony Danza, and I forgot
Angela's name.
Wait, I have to find her name now.
Vacuuming Angela.
I'm vacuuming Angela and no Alyssa Milano, but Judith Light, of course. How could I forget?
Right.
Judith Light, all on screen, introducing the cousins to Tuesday night on ABC.
Great.
Isn't that great? Can you imagine you saw that?
Great. Okay, another fun fact about this episode or about Perfect Strangers is that Balky, the name Balky, came from Bronson Pinchot's sister's dog's name.
Whoa.
Well, sort of.
Okay.
In 1986, Pinchot told TV Guide that Balky was short for balcony, which is what his family considered naming his sister's dog when they were kids.
That's a weird name.
They ultimately named the pet something else, but the name Balky stuck around as a thing in their family. And when the producers were trying to decide on what to name the character, Bronson Pinchot remembered it and suggested Balky, and it became great.
That's great. But who names their dog Balcony? Like, where's the dog? Was the dog on the balcony? Balcony, come here.
You know what? Once we get Bronson Pinchot on our podcast, we'll have to ask him.
Oh, boy. That would be amazing.
Who do you think you're talking to? Somebody nice?
You heard that right here, Bronson. We're gutting for you.
Bronson Pinchot, come on our podcast.
You can tell me, why would you name your sister's dog Balcony? It's very, Very strange. That's it for episode 3, season 1, Perfect Strangers, Dance of Joy podcast. Listener, make sure to subscribe to the show. That way you never miss a show. You can find us on all major podcast apps. You want to subscribe now because next episode, Balky's going to get his driver's license.
Oh, and
Awesome.
yes, we're so happy you joined us and that we hope you enjoyed listening to us recap these episodes. It would be great if you wanted to watch along as we go through these episodes. Write to us, follow us on social media. Let us know what you think of the show, your favorite moments, what you want us to talk about. We'd love to hear from you.
All the shows are on Hulu, all 8 seasons, so you can watch along. Email us, danceofjoypod@gmail.com. And visit our website, danceofjoypod.com, to get links to our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and our Facebook group. We're going to hang out with all the fans, new and old. Want to turn some new people on, get to know them, and find out. I would love to know this generation. I can't wait till we get a first millennial to be like what they think about Perfect Strangers.
Yes, you could be that first millennial to let us know your thoughts.
You'll get points.
Points.
Thanks for listening, and now we must do the Dance of Joy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy. Hey! 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 Hey!